a young lad, I remember some pretty good days. I remember, for instance, that my parents used to take me down across the Mason-Dixon line, down just south of the Havre de Grace Marina in the lower stretches of the Susquehanna River, right before it feeds into the Chesapeake Bay. And Dad, Randy, had a motorboat. Fine, reliable motorboat. He knew how to handle like it shared his soul. And once or twice each summer, there we'd be, speeding out atop the water. Maybe on a day trip, maybe camping on the islands. And I can picture it now, beneath the ever-clouded heavens of blue and gold artistry. We'd glide across the wide, glossy river which gently flowed and rippled between the banks with their lush forested hills, their craggy, tree-spotted cliffs, their eerie graffiti eyeballs surveying the river's glow, their high outstretched bridges across the waters and their thin outposts of civilization. And with the foliage and soothing flow of such broad rivers, well, between that and this very land where we live, and it's no mistake they call our region the garden spot of America, well, they make me think of an old story. A story about another river and another garden spot. I found this old story, you see, near the front of my Bible. And there I read, the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Now, Eden, that's a word that means delight. A place of pure delight. A place on the primeval earth, as Genesis bids us imagine it, where God set up his home, his holy of holies, his palace, and gave it a sacred garden courtyard. And into that holy place, that open-air temple, he introduced his image to till and work the land, to protect and to expand the garden. And this garden, we read, was full of life and full of beauty. Out of the ground, the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. Think about that. Every tree. All the vegetation you could imagine. All the trees and all the bushes and all the vegetables and all the flowers with chirping birds and cute critters frolicking about and all the rest. The perfect garden. And that's not all. What's more, the tree of life was in the midst of the garden. The hope of living forever in this beautiful garden in total harmony with God and with the natural world was assured by that tree ready to sustain life. And how could this garden stay so lush? Because there is a river flowing in from the heart of Eden proper. From the place where God himself, the life-giver, dwelled. The text says a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers. The 4 mightiest rivers the ancient patriarchs could have dreamt of. And with only one exception we weren't ready for, we had the free enjoyment of this old green garden. To savor, taste, and the mire, and simply be at peace. It was idyllic. It was live. It was spiritual. It was our home in the presence of God, in perfect balance with the world from which we were made. It was work without struggle. This steady and carefree tending to the garden. It was refreshing. It was relaxing. Everything was so alive, so fresh, so beautiful, so glory-soaked. In a word, it was paradise. It could have lasted, but it didn't. See, we refuse to be satisfied with life in the garden. We refuse to live in paradise on God's terms. We listen to the whispers of temptation, the ones that suggest greener pastures beyond what we could see. But there were no greener pastures. This garden was greenest of all. All the tree's fruit was ours to eat and savor, save for one. So we chose to transgress for transgression's sake. Chose our wisdom over God's. We thought that we, tenant gardeners, knew the garden better than the God who grew the garden. Refusing to be satisfied, we became dissatisfied with the garden, with each other, with the gaze of our loving God on our suddenly shameful vulnerability. Our harmony with each other crumbled away into a chain of mutual recriminations, and it's no surprise the harmony between us and creation would follow suit. That there should be such a thing now as cursed and painful soil and toil, a substitution of pain for pleasure, and a confrontation with the harsher side of the plant kingdom, these ever-sharp thorns and thistles. The garden was good, very good, beyond very, very good, but we were no longer fit to tend it. Therefore the Lord God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Paradise lost. It's really no surprise that even the best gardens and the best rivers we see around us all fall short. Sure, in their better moments they give us glimpses, dim reflections of what was, what could have been, what should have been. But even the blue gray of the Susquehanna isn't perfect. It holds so much discarded refuse at its bottom. The garden spot around us isn't perfect. It's divvied up by developments. It doesn't always reliably yield what it could. It needs to be replenished and enriched from time to time. For our crops, we have to scrape them from the earth, wrest the growth from the clutches of a sometimes unwilling patch of dirt, and through the land there flow the dull mud hues of the Calico and other creeks. And those are the best case scenarios, aren't they? When I was in Kenya a few years back, I saw the edges of the jungle. A reminder that this earth is not tame, but is filled with vibrant foliage and wrathful insects about half the size of my fist. And I danced from grass tuft to grass tuft on the wide open savanna in the eyes of the bemused herd of zebra. I wandered in and out from the presence of baboons, watched lions laze about the moist heat and sticky blood and clouds of flies. I also walked the streets, if they can be called that, of the Nairobi slums, like Kabawara. And down the midst of the streets of the city there flowed what I suppose you could ironically call a river. Not of water, open sewage, and in trash, bottle caps, paper, pulp, plastic bottles, discarded rubber tires fills the river and the land as goats and feral dogs roam sorrowfully between the rows of ramshackle shops and falling shingles. On the sides of the little sewage ditch, some faint spots of mottled green grow, certainly nothing good for food. And the rest of the ground is a firm and fruitless dull brown. That's not paradise. And yet even that may hold more life than where a certain prophet named Ezekiel found himself in his life. Out in a desert under the Middle Eastern sun, the only river within his reach was a product of human craftsmanship, a canal for transporting water from the mighty Euphrates to the smaller irrigation ditches carved through the hot soil. But at least it was a canal wide enough to sail down, if just barely. And Ezekiel's job, now that priesthood was no option, his job was borderline slave labor in hauling loads of silt perpetually from this canal, preventing it and the irrigation ditches from being clogged up with silt and debris and all manner of polluting things that would cut off the life supply from Babylonian farmlands and garden plots. You see, Ezekiel would be no stranger to cleaning out the church downspout here at Pequea. And without the constant intervention of Ezekiel and his fellow forced laborers, the water might be polluted, or it might not reach its destination at all, and the desert would go unclaimed. And what lay beyond it was often bare rock and desert and fruitless wilderness where we were never made to live. That, in fact, is the world we see around us as much as the relative enjoyments of our garden spot and our forays to the wide rivers of this fallen world may obscure it from our sight. We live in a world of cursed ground. We live in a creation out of balance, and we out of balance with it. We live in a polluted place, often barren, and that was especially the experience of the ancient Israelites who knew just what a desert is. It's not enough for us to be the right people if we don't live in the right place, a life-giving and life-nurturing place, a place we can enjoy, a place for which we were made, a place we could have kept, but we abandoned through our pride and our lust and our greed. And so we keep fighting each other, fighting with creation, keep struggling to tend it, sometimes wage outright war against it for our pride and our lust and our greed, and so we spoil the earth of which we are stewards. Cursed is the ground for our sake, and sometimes doubly cursed by our efforts, and far from home are we. I make no apologies for it. It's a sad story. Any story that opens in the best of gardens and veers deep into dry desert, that's a sad story. But that story is not done at the desert. Onto the scene walked a man. A man named Jesus. On these rocky, sin-cursed slopes he set down his beautiful feet, calling out to Zion the good news, your God reigns! Your God is coming to reign through Jesus. The kingdom is drawing near. Beautiful are the feet on the mountains of the messenger saying, your God reigns. He urged the people that God did not want to curse them. He wanted to bless them. God wanted to parent them, wanted them to live like it was that first week all over again. But human pride and lust and greed had built ways to profit from life far from the garden. And so the tenant, gardeners, laborers of the vineyard slew the son of the owner. And on a lifeless tree between a dark sky and a cursed earth, they hung him till life left. But he was the life. He was the vine. He was the tree. And there was no way he wouldn't flourish again. No mortal axe could thwart his fruitful bounty from sprouting anew forever in resurrection life. Now, over the past couple months here, we've been exploring, using the writings of the prophet Ezekiel as our lens, exploring just what difference it makes that Jesus Christ is alive and well. See, we found out that because Jesus Christ is risen, he lives as a new shepherd over God's wayward, mistreated, rowdy flock. He judges between sheep and goats, weak and strong, and holds all accountable to keep peace while he feeds us and leads us. Because Jesus Christ is risen, he transplants a new heart, soft and pliable, the will of God, in place of our stony and resistant heart of old. Because Jesus Christ is risen, he breathes a new spirit down on our hopeless dry bones and bids us live again when all have been lost. Because Jesus Christ is risen, he binds two sticks in his hand, binds together nations, overcomes our fractured society with a new unity that only he can give. Because Jesus Christ is risen, he'll gain a new victory over all the collected forces of evil, yea, Gog and Magog, and share that new victory with us to deliver us from evil forever. Because Jesus Christ is risen, he'll build a new temple in a new holy city. As we saw last week, in some way, that temple Ezekiel saw is us. And it's an assurance that God will make his home in our midst and not leave. That God will set things right. That God has said he'd make us holy and will in fact do just that for good. And yet for all that, how great is it really to have a new heart and a new spirit? To live with a new unity under a new shepherd, to enjoy a new victory and a new temple. How good is that if it's still on cursed, lifeless ground? If the streams are still dry and polluted, if the crops still don't grow, if we have to see sewage ditches and garbage heaps, if the world isn't beautiful, isn't full of life, isn't yet where we belong, can all the rest really be where it ends? And so we come to the closing section of Ezekiel's vision, the last things he sees. A heavenly guide, you might remember, has been giving him a tour of this new temple. This rich representation of God's presence restored to the earth in our sanctified midst. In the heart of this temple, God has established his throne. And then Ezekiel sees his final sight of this temple. What's written? He brought me back to the door of the temple, and behold, Water was issuing from the hole below the threshold of the temple toward the east, for the temple faced east. The water was flowing down from below the south end of the threshold of the temple, south of the altar. Then he brought me out by way of the north gate and led me on the outside to the outer gate that faces east, and behold, the water was trickling out on the south side. Where is this water coming from? From the presence of God somehow, emerging from the temple as a thin stream, but not for long. Going on eastward with a measuring line in his hand, the man measured 1,000 cubits, and then led me through the water, and it was ankle deep. Again he measured 1,000 and led me through the water, and it was knee deep. Again he measured 1,000 and led me through the water, and it was waist deep. Again he measured 1,000, and it was a river I could not pass through, for the water had risen. It was deep enough to swim in a river that could not be passed through. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? In other words, do you get it? Is it sinking in? This thin trickle, in defiance of all physics, all geometry, all hydrodynamics, all the laws by which earthly things work, is without any addition from precipitation getting bigger and deeper and faster and stronger all at once. With no abatement of speed, the volume increases as it flows onward, multiplying like loaves and fishes in the Messiah's hand. This little trickle becomes a creek, becomes a brook, becomes a stream, becomes a mighty river, broadens like the Susquehanna. It's wider and faster than the Congregational Creek or the Kebar Canal. There's no need to clean out the silt. But what's this river going to do? Ezekiel's going to find out. His guide, he says, led me back to the bank of the river. As I went back, I saw on the bank of the river very many trees on one side and on the other. And those weren't there before. Ezekiel didn't see those the first time, and they're not a coincidence. They're an effect of the river miraculously enriching the soil. They sprang up faster than anything could grow, sprang up like creation all over again. That's what Ezekiel sees. He doesn't see just one here, one there. He sees fertility. He sees vitality seeping out through the land on either side of this river, so the whole earth all around is chock full of leafy trees and bushes and grass and flowers and all manner of beautiful things. And then his guide explains something. This water flows toward the eastern region and goes down into the Araba and enters the sea. When the water flows into the sea, the water will be healed. Now those sound like trivial, incidental details to those of us who don't know the place. But when you do, it's actually astonishing. The eastern region means the high, mountainous eastern slopes beyond Jerusalem, which were notoriously devoid of precipitation. Moisture. They were dry as dry bones. And the Araba is the Jordan Rift Valley, which along the eastern slopes were notorious for exceptional dryness, save for the Jordan River itself. So this river out of the temple is going to flow over the dry mountains and water them into the Jordan Rift Valley and water them and join forces with or cross the Jordan River and flow down where? What sea is he talking about? The Dead Sea. The most sterile place on earth. The lake where nothing can possibly live. Where any fish, anything other than some very exceptional bacteria will inevitably die. Dead Sea. And this river that produces trees on its banks will flow through the driest places imaginable, into the deadest places imaginable. And what happens then? The water will be healed. Healed of its saltiness, healed of its sterility, healed of its pollution, healed of its deadness. And wherever the two rivers go, every living creature that swarms will live, and there will be many fish, for this water goes there, that the waters of the sea may be healed, so everything will live wherever the river goes. It will be fish of very many kinds, like the fish of the great sea. Now the Kibar Canal, where Ezekiel lived, was wide enough to travel, but I doubt much lived in it. The Dead Sea certainly had nothing living in it. And yet because of this river, even the Dead Sea will be the sea of life. It will have biodiversity you can't even get your brain around. Every kind of fish that lives in the whole Mediterranean and much more besides, it'll be in there. And every swarming thing, every sort of life will flourish and thrive. There will be no need to artificially stock these waters. There will be no need to plant or sow on the riverbanks. It will teem with flora and fauna beyond our wildest dreams. Now, if this is just a picture of the transformation of a valley in the Middle East, well, that may have made Ezekiel glad to hear it, but it wouldn't mean that much to us. But like we heard last week, this temple itself is a rich pointer to a reality beyond a spot on a map. And so is this river and what it does. As we keep listening to Ezekiel's guide, what's he tell us? On the banks, on both sides of the river, there will grow all kinds of trees for food. Their leaves will not wither, nor their fruit fail, but they will bear fresh fruit every month, because the water for them flows from the sanctuary. And their water will be, or their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for healing. These are no ordinary trees. These are super trees, bearing fruit every month, not summer months, not the spring months, year-round fruit, unfazed by weather or seasonal climate, untouched by blight or rot, ungnawed by insects or pests, in other words, in perfect, beyond earthly health. And every fruit will be fresh, every fruit will be edible, every fruit will be delicious and refreshing and good for sustaining life. Even the leaves of the trees have medicinal properties for the benefit of all who come near. These trees and this river, with all the fish and flowers and everything else, it sounds like everything you could ever need. Because it is. And if these lines sound familiar, there's a reason. What do we read in the Bible's final chapter? John writes, "Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright and clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. Also on either side of the river, the tree of life, with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be any curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads." The trees Ezekiel sees, that's the tree of life. The beauty Ezekiel sees is growing out of uncursed ground. The river Ezekiel sees is a spirit clear as crystal, unpolluted, uncontaminated, never cloudy, never discolored. It brings life wherever it flows. Where this river flows from the throne of Father and Son, Eden sprouts all over again. Creation is made new. It's new life where once was dryness, and perfect blessing where once was a curse. In short, it's home. It's the home we were made for. It's a garden city. Ezekiel portrays an organized society arrayed around the temple precinct in this well-watered land. John likewise sees it as a city. He sees a river not of filth but of purity flowing down the midst of the central street. He sees all this civilization and natural beauty tied together in perfect balance. All society dwelling in a perfect paradise, organized in harmony, in a beautiful, pure creation back in the garden. New Eden and New Jerusalem. All in one, watered by a new river. No more flaming swords standing between us and the tree of life. Nothing standing between us and healing. Nothing standing between us and sustenance. Nothing shielding our eyes from beauty. No more curse. No more strife. Nothing but wholeness in the presence of God. A desert no more. We'll bear His name on our foreheads, it says. In the Old Testament, there was only one person who bore the name of God on his forehead, the high priest of Israel, who alone could dare to enter the Holy of Holies, the hot spot of God's presence on earth. John's saying, you will each be everything the high priest was, and more. And we'll see our God face to face, as the whole garden city will be a holy of holies. And those will be a lot better than pretty good days. The river of His life-giving Spirit, which even now makes water of life flow out of our hearts, will water all of creation and make it all the garden spot of God, resplendent with everything we once lost and far more beside than we ever hoped to gain. And in such a perfect world of satisfaction guaranteed, the name of it all will be, the Lord is there. Does the resurrection of Jesus make a difference? Absolutely it does. It promises that here, where we live and where we may die, home will yet be planted again, and in eternal resurrection health, we'll gather at that ever deeper, ever broader river in His name, by His side, forever. Let the one who thirsts come. Let the one who desires take the water of life without price. It's a free gift of grace for all whose robes are washed white in the blood of the Lamb. Hallelujah. What a hope. What a hope. Hallelujah. Let us pray. Father, what more can we say than that we long for that home? We long for that. Fill us with your water of life even now, that will one day be a river rushing wide. Amen. Come, Lord Jesus. Amen.